Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network, the one and only Keith Andrew Network. It is episode 673. I am here with professional and talented Elena Hurst, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thanks for having me, Keith.
No, the honor is all mine. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. Is to prove to them and stem out to something. So hashtag break the labels. So that being said, 28 minutes of your time, say anything you want, talk about whatever you want. Freedom of speech, self-expression, it is PG-13 to let you know. And I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But starting off, what can you tell us about yourself?
I'm an actor. I live in New York. I do a lot of voiceover and some stage and commercials, and I also have an 8-month-old son, so I'm a new mom, and I've got a 12-year-old pit bull lab. That's my first fur baby, and I like to cook. So I write short stories and then make a recipe based off the short story. That's sort of a side thing of mine.
Oh, nice. Well, first off, congrats on being a mother.
Thank you.
And the second thing I want to ask you is, when you were growing up, were you a study nerd or party animal? And, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish the question.
The first question is, were you a study nerd or party animal? And did you ever do any sports growing up?
Let's see. So I was definitely both. I unfortunately was able to make really good grades while also being a party animal. So I was both studious and did really well at school, and then also was kind of a rebel and went out too late and got into trouble. I was never very good at sports. I'm a good sports fan. I love sports. I'm from Dallas, so I grew up in the 90s with the Cowboys being, the greatest thing ever. And my dad worked doing lights for the baseball games. So we used to go to the Rangers games a lot. And anyway, so I was a great fan. I always wanted to play sports, but was just not very good at it. I would say now as an adult, I'm athletic, but I'm not good at team sports. So I swim and I run. I ran the New York City Marathon a few years ago, and I do yoga, but I'm not great at sports that involved hand-eye coordination.
Now I can relate to that. For an example, when I play basketball, I'm like, okay, to let you know, I'm a little slow, so just tell me if you gotta throw it towards me. Yeah, it's like, whatever, you can throw it at my chest, you can throw it, but not the face, but anywhere else, I really don't care. I say, okay, Keith, think fast. And I lost count how many times I got whacked in the face.
Yeah, I tried to play softball when I was in junior high. I got on the team, but they put me out in the right field. And I do remember my dad trying in the yard to teach me how to play. And one time he threw the ball and it got me right in the side of the face. And I, screamed and cried, and he wanted to, there's no crying in baseball. And then when I got inside and looked at the mirror and I had the stitches of the baseball imprinted on the side of my face, I thought that was pretty funny. So that was how the crying ended.
Then the next question, I can relate. My brother threw a ball at my face, and it wasn't like a baseball; it was like a tennis ball, but it still stings. Doesn't tickle.
True.
But the next question I want to ask you is, who influenced you to become an actress, and how many years have you been acting?
Well, my parents are both in the business. So my mom is an actor and a director, and my dad is a gaffer. They're part of the lighting crew on a set. and he's also a lighting designer. And so they kind of sort of threw us in, me and my sisters, into it when we were young, and then when we were old enough to decide if we wanted to keep at it, I was the one who still liked it. So I would say I've really been acting my whole life. I was on a TV show on PBS called Wishbone when I was a kid. I think I was in the 6th grade when I got that show. Then I used to always my parents had a nonprofit Latino theater in Dallas, and I did a lot of work on stage there. And then they would travel to international theater festivals, so I got to travel and do those. So I've really I've really sort of worked my whole life at this. And yeah, so they would be my biggest influence, and how I started. It would probably be the same answer to the question, would be my parents.
It's funny. I recently started to interview kid actors on the show because I got in actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers. And while I'm interviewing actors, I got people like, from your age. I'm not saying you're old or anything, but based around our ages up, I'm like, well, how can I connect to the younger audience? So I've been starting to reach out to kid actors like, hey, let's hear your story, how you got started, what was your first break, don't be like Miley Cyrus or, whatever, the kid from Home Alone. Never have a breakdown, never do drugs, always be centered and be the good-hearted person, never let fame go to your head. But recently I interviewed this kid actor, and this dawned on me for some reason now. It's like, how come I never did any acting? It's like, well, I have diarrhea in the mouth. I don't shut up, so I would be perfect for it. But I'm just, maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe it wasn't, but that's one of my regrets. Maybe going back in time, maybe I could have been a kid actor. Who knows? Things would have been different.
Yeah. You never know what path life will take you. Sometimes I wonder the opposite. I'm like, what if I hadn't have been, exposed to the theater? Would I have picked something totally different, gone into law, become an interviewer? It's actually one of the other art forms I love, is the art of the interview. Terry Gross is one of my idols.
I heard the name before. I can't think of him, but I know the name.
She's a very famous interviewer on NPR. She's got a show called Fresh Air, and she interviews important people from art and culture. And I think when Obama gave her the National Medal of Honor, and at the award ceremony there was all these people, and he introduced all of these famous people, and he said, and then the person that's interviewed them all, Terry Gross.
Hey, if she's ever interested, I would love to have her on the show or be interviewed by her. But the next question I was going to ask you, you mentioned you were on a TV show when you were at the age of 6. What was the very first acting scene or skit that you ever did that made you say, this is what you want to do for the rest of your life?
That's a good question. Well, it was 6th grade, not 6 years old on the show.
My bad.
But all good. But I think, actually I remember one time I was in Peru, in Trujillo, Peru, and we were at a theater that was a really big, 2,000 or 3,000 seat theater. So it had the 2 rows and the balconies or whatever. And I was doing a monologue about a migrant worker who picked cotton. And it was sort of the intro to a bigger piece that my mom's theater was doing, and it was sort of her way of throwing me on the stage and getting me used to it. And I had performed it before, but I don't know. I think I was just good at saying lines and repeating them, and being little and cute and making it work. And there was a moment when we were rehearsing where the character is starting to hallucinate from the pesticides that were on the cotton plants that they're picking. And I don't know what it was that my mom, who was the director, said to prompt me, to really push me to go to a place where I was outside of my body and having, this reaction. And I got up and I was sort of out of breath and I was dizzy, and it felt so different than anything else I had done. It felt like I was really inhabiting a different body and a different person. And I thought it was almost like what I imagined flying would be like, and it just got in me. I loved it ever since.
No, absolutely. And the next question, it's funny you could talk about a script. When I do my interview, sometimes I have like an index card, but I give you an example. When I'm an index, I can't even speak, to show disabilities. And in my index card, I would have like professional actor, director. I have 3 subjects, and then I would base my questions off of those subjects. For an example, they're kind of the same thing: professional wrestlers, professional actors, but all the questions that I interview every single person bases around that. So it's not, copy and paste. I do ask the same questions. But for an example, you're an actor, and later on I'm supposed to have a wrestler on the show. So the same questions: who influenced you? How did you do this? How did you do that? That isn't one set of questions that's like, okay, these are my acting questions. I kind of use the questions for everyone, saying, I'm going to throw it together, and I'm the type of guy that feeds off energy. So if you're going to bounce energy off of me, I'm going to bounce energy off to you. And if there's a good vibe, we can keep it going, we can keep it fresh. I know a lot of people don't feed off energy. I'm an energy person. I give you, actually, I get enough listening examples. This is not about me, this is about you. So the next question I want to ask you is, when you're acting and talking about energy, what gets you pumped? Or what gets you hyped up? Do you do like stare in the mirror and say, I can do this? Do you take like a Red Bull or something? What gets you fired up to saying, I have to do this routine to get me through the skit?
I guess, well, everything starts for me with a good warm up, because you have to get into your body and into your voice and feel that those things are all working in connection to what's in your heart and mind. And then, it often depends on the character and the medium. So if you're doing a TV show or a film, a lot of times you get there and you get to set really early, and there's a lot of stuff, and it feels very, it feels really sort of epic, and there's hundreds of people running around doing things, and they're ushering you from one room to another, and you go to the makeup chair and you do all of this. And then oftentimes you wait for sometimes hours before you actually go in to do your work, to do the scene. And so there's a real lull, a real dip in your energy and how you stay connected. And in those cases, it's kind of a long game. It's sort of more like running a marathon, where you got to pace yourself, and you've got all this sort of energy and adrenaline at first, and then it can kind of dwindle and you could get sleepy or whatever. So a lot of that is about staying focused. I try to I keep my things to bide my time a little minimum. I do a crossword puzzle, but I don't want to be online and thinking about the outside world too much. Or I'll, read the script that I'm working on or something like that. And then, I'll try to remember to do some of the training of body warm up and stuff before going on. Usually though, once you get on the set, just the adrenaline of all of those people, that's what really drives you, because you're surrounded by incredibly talented people that have all been doing so much work to make this moment happen, that you don't want to fail on your part. I don't want to be the reason that they have to do another take. There's literally 100 people that set that take up, and so I don't want it to be my fault. So that feels very much like a tightrope, and it gives you an incredible amount of adrenaline, so you don't really have to think about it so much. So I guess ultimately preparation and staying in your body, and then allowing the moment in the moment to take you is what really works for film and television. For stage, it's a lot more like, I don't know, you get on the train and it doesn't get off until it's done. So that's very much about the routine. You go to the theater at the same time. You do your same warm up. You say hello to your cast. You have sort of a ritual before the show starts. Or it would be more like a train, or like a game, like a baseball game or something, where it's going to go without you, and it's going to go in that sort of same time frame. So you just have to kind of gear up and get in and get on. And in that case, your cast and the audience and everything is what gives you the energy.
No, absolutely. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you about social media and about working with people with disabilities when we come back.
Hi, I'm Paisley Blackburn.
I'm Ashley Burgess.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Abney.
Hi, I'm Sharon Spank.
Hey, this is Samantha Moore.
Hi, I'm Melody Jones.
Hi, my name is Becky Yee.
Hi, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 673. I'm here. It's a talented and beautiful Elena Hurst. I just want to say thank you for being with us. First thing I want to plug is this Saturday, June 13th. It's going to be my 7-year anniversary. More information, I'm going to be on the screen. If you guys are interested in being part of it, just message me on YouTube or Facebook, and I will definitely talk to you guys about it. If you ever change your mind, you're welcome to be there. But with that being said, the last two questions is, have you worked with people with disabilities? Now, apparently you're on my show, and you're working with people with disabilities, obviously, without that sound like an oxymoron. But with everything that you accomplish in your life, in the acting business, have you worked with people with disabilities, and are you willing to work with people with disabilities?
I mean, absolutely willing, for sure. You work with anybody and everybody that the project demands. I would say doing this interview with you, I can't even tell that you're somebody with a disability, so that wouldn't have been the first thing that came to mind. And I guess I haven't done a lot of projects with people with disabilities. I think there is absolutely an underrepresentation in the industry. I did have the opportunity to work on a showcase with Ali Stoker, who's she just won the Tony last year for Oklahoma, and she is in a wheelchair. She's paraplegic. I guess she can't move her legs, but she's like an incredible singer and actor and a beautiful person to work with. And she's been a really great advocate for having ramps backstage and access, not just for the audience, but for people in the theater, because there's just not enough, access, I think, for people to be in projects. And I met Jamie Brewer. Jamie, is that her name? Jamie Brewer? She's a famous actress with a disability. We have the same agent, and I met her at a charity event, and she was super delightful and wonderful to work with. And I guess this might be coming from somebody who doesn't have a disability, so maybe it's not fair to say it, but I think all of us have something that we're coming with that you have to tailor and adapt to working with people, no matter what it is. Some people have bias, some people are angry, some people talk a lot and don't let you get a word in edgewise. Some people are pushovers, some people push you over. There's a million things that you have to that negative and positive, that you have to adapt when working with people. And one of the criteria for being an actor is to listen to the other person and to respond to what they're giving you. So if you can do that with empathy and kindness and patience, then it doesn't matter if somebody's, a rocket scientist, or if somebody has a disability, as you say, or whatever. It's, you just listen and respond and be present.
No, absolutely. And my last question for you is, I haven't asked this question as of late because I've been trying to change my format. But so it's going to be two subjects in one. One with everything going on, and I'm not bringing this up because everything was going on. When you got into the entertainment world, have you ever been stereotyped or typecast?
Ooh.
And the second part of that is social media. Can social media make you or break you?
So the first part of that question is, yes, of course. I mean, there was all kinds of, when I was a child actor, my parents were more involved. My dad, I remember having a real argument with one of my agents because they would only send me for parts that said, Mexican or Latin American or this, and those tended to be troubled youth or, one or two lines of something or, gang related or I don't know, whatever. And actually my first role on a TV show was for a character named Amanda. I can't remember her last name, but it was something, probably Anglo and regular, and it wasn't written for an Hispanic. It was just a girl in school, and it was, an elementary school setting, and it was a really great role. I was kind of the sort of the mean girl to the main protagonists. But, and that was just to even get in the room. And now, and over the years since I moved to New York, I've certainly been told plenty of things about what kinds of roles would be available to me, how I should tailor myself to meet those roles. And I never really have paid attention to it. Certainly it's gotten to me, and certainly I've been frustrated that I think my career could have been further along if things were different. But I've also seen the kinds of roles available to me completely change, especially in the last 5 years. I try out now for leads for characters that have agency, that are not just one-dimensional, two-dimensional characters. So I think that there's been a lot of growth, and there's certainly a lot of room to grow. And the more content creators that we have, you're telling stories of people with disabilities that other people aren't telling. And, the more women that there are writers and producers, and the more people of color, Latinos and Black content creators that we have, then the more that you see that change. So yeah, lots of room to grow, and certainly I also think has been a lot of positive growth. As far as social media, I don't know. You've got me stumped. I'm sure I could be savvier. I definitely could be savvier about it. I think it certainly can make or break you. I think either way, I think social media's got this thing of like playing some kind of game, and about it being how much people like you and things that can be a problem. But at the same time, like, if you're really authentic and true to yourself and know how to reach your audience, then that's a great skill to have. It's sort of become its own, or it definitely has become its own medium. So, you could write a novel, or you could make a film, or you could choreograph a dance, or you could be a social media icon. They all have their sort of skill set. Yeah, I don't know if it has to make you. I think your talent still has to be there, and your authenticity still has to be there, no matter how many likes or dislikes you have.
No, absolutely. But what about your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Stage 32? Do all those numbers dictate if people should work with you? Or is it the message behind it?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you that. I've heard of people that say that they only hire people, that have big accounts. I hope that that's not the case. I hope it's about who you are and what you have to say, and not just how many people follow you.
No, absolutely. Now it's the last 4 minutes left. I'm going to pass it over to you. Was there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you want to about the protesting, not to talk about political things, but this is your time, whatever you want to talk about.
The protests are really beautiful. I've been really torn because I'm a person who always likes to take to the streets and stand, and this is definitely a cause dear to my heart. but with the pandemic and me being a new mom, I've largely stayed away from the protests in the streets. But I do advocate, I'm a regular donator to the ACLU, and I've been donating to, bailout fund and different things financially, as well as I have for a very long time. I work with a group called the New Sanctuary Coalition, who's help immigrants navigate the immigration system. And so I work once a week taking people's stories of why they've come here and help them fill out their asylum applications. So because I speak Spanish, I'm able to do that well. And while it's not exactly this cause, it is a similar cause, which is that we want to break down this system of detention, of arrest, of systematically oppressing people because of the color of their skin or their background. And so there's all kinds of work that you can do if you can't take to the streets. That being said, one of the marches happened right down my street a couple of nights ago, and I just couldn't hold it in anymore, and I ran outside and walked along with the march for a little bit. They have been really beautiful. It's incredible to see how many people have come together and how much change we're already seeing with movements to defund some of the police and redivert those funds to social causes and education. And I hope it continues.
No, absolutely, and I support the protests 100%. My thing is, what I don't support is the looting and the burning down stores for apps. You want to promote. You want to protest a cause, that's fine. But absolutely no reason. There's no reason to burn down stores or anything like that. But
well, it's a very, very tiny percentage of the tens of thousands of people all over the world that are protesting peacefully. And I think the people that took advantage of the protests to do that are not the people that are fighting for this movement. And we can't forget why we're in the street, which is that lives were taken away. Those lives are more precious than any property can be. And so we've got to keep the pressure on and take away the system that allows people to act this way and to rob the lives of our community.
No, absolutely. And wrapping up, the thing I do want to say, the scary part is right now we're celebrating, Black Lives Matter, but my hashtag is All Lives Matter. But that's not the scary thing I was going to say. The scary thing is this can happen to anyone. God forbid they turn their attentions to the handicap community next. Or what if they did it, to the Spanish community? I'm not saying it's right. It's 100% wrong. And people are assholes. And people are hypocrites. But at a certain point, you need to stand up for what you believe in. And unless you make noise, nothing's going to change.
Sure, definitely. I would encourage you to rethink in this moment the All Lives Matter, because right now we do have to put focus and attention on the fact that Black lives are the ones that are being systematically oppressed. And so, it's very much like saying, fighting for breast cancer and saying, well, but all cancers matter. But at this moment, that's the focus that we're putting it on, and people need our support.
No, absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2.